What's up y'all, it's Teal. So I've been sitting here with the idea that the Paradox Pokemon are imagination Pokemon, and I wanted to make a video sharing you guys all my thoughts and seeing what y'all think. So of course the two leading sides to Paradox Pokemon's identity is their actual time travel Pokemon, as the game is telling us, or their imagination Pokemon, and that's the twist they're gonna tell us in the DLC. And at first I didn't like the imagination idea, but I've been sitting here thinking about it, thinking about everything that happened in Scarlet and Violet, and I wanted to make a video mentioning everything from the perspective of if Terapagos is a dream Pokemon and the Paradox Pokemon are imagination Pokemon. And actually, as I'm about to make this video right now, Ku just posted a tweet, which is perfectly relevant to this. Wow, he says, "Let's battle time travel or imagination." Or they don't intend to tell you the results even after the plot ends. Oh, Ku, you can't do this. That's perfect timing, Ku. So Ku's aware of the discussion we've been having. He's saying, is the game gonna make it time travel or imagination, or keep it abstract and not actually tell us what the identity is, but essentially leave little hints for the community to have a conclusion? I still don't know which one I believe in, but I think the best way to settle the debate between the two is to take one side and try to defend it. So I'm gonna pretend imagination is confirm the truth, and I'm gonna defend it with my life. So we start off with what Heath wrote 200 years ago. The biggest proof we have of his tales being real is he has photographic evidence of a Donphan he saw. But Heath lied when he made this photo, because we went to Area Zero ourselves, and there is no tropical location like this. So what Heath really did is to defend his book and create some sort of proof, so when people read the book they're like, damn, I guess this crap is down there. Him and his team staged a fake Donphan sighting in this tropical location. When you see the photo earlier in the game, you think there's some hot ass tropical weather down there. There's nothing like that, it's kinda plain. And while we're speaking about lies, there's another lie I can show you in his book where he decided to write about the cool species he saw down there. Flamingos, Palmots, Knucklestacks. Because everything down there was stuff you could see on the surface anyway, he made up a random gorilla Pokemon that the game left in there for us to see, because it doesn't actually exist. He just wanted to make it look interesting, and that's especially why they only showed it from the back. So they staged the Donphan photo, made up more Pokemon that don't actually exist in Area Zero, and even you can see inspirations for the Paradox Pokemon in some of their survey members. One of them has a Routes family member. But about Koraidon and Miraidon, Heath never saw Koraidon and Miraidon in Area Zero. He likes Cyclizar so much that he decided to write about there being a king of all the species down there as a futuristic or past version of Cyclizar. And we would do the same thing if we wanted to lie in his shoes too. If we treasured Cyclizar that much as our partner Pokemon, we would make it the cover of our books and build a fantasy around it, and write that it was the strongest of the creatures that existed down there. So that's the theme of this video. Heath lied in Area Zero. He named all these Paradox Pokemon having seen them, but he never really did see them. Then a culture caught wind of his book and decided to make up stories about seeing them too on the surface, like Screamtails in Paldean forests. It leads to a bunch of people telling a culture their stories and them writing a bunch of articles like in Violet about an alien future where Iron Moth is spying. It's not just a lie of a sighting based off a real Pokemon, the Pokemon too is a lie. Walking Wake and all would appear to be named by him too, but perhaps he didn't in this case. It's possible he never actually saw the Pokemon related to these two drawings, and instead created this drawing just to spark up the mystery further about what could be down there. So perhaps in the same theme of the other fake Pokemon, when Sada and Turo saw these images and went down to Terapagos, it made their dreams based off that drawing real, and created the three fake legendary beasts as part dragon types, or futuristic swords as psychic types. And so when it comes to these 6 names, Sada and Tura are the ones that actually first saw them and named them. Which is why to this day, Game Freak is not showing us a single Pokedex entry for any of the Paradox legendaries. They're waiting to show us that in the final DLC, because there's probably proof Heath never saw anything close to them down there. The legendary beasts being dragon and the swords being psychic are the two cores of a savage past and this digital future. It sounds like it came from someone's dreams. The paradox told to us by Arvin is that the Paradox Pokemon exist in the wrong time period, 200 years ago, but Sada and Turo are the ones that just summoned them. It's a real paradox that the game wants us to think about. The answer is that Heath never saw them 200 years ago in the first place. the Herba Mystica. They're shown to us to be this dreamlike panacea that can cure anything. It cured the Mabostiff. They're just dream-filled plants from Terapagos' influence that cause this cure-all effect. Further proof that Terapagos is a dream Pokemon. I suppose going back to these 6 Paradox legendaries being like actualized versions of what Sada and Turo thought would exist based off the photo they saw in Heath's book, you can kind of maybe see a discrepancy if you look at like Suicune's entry. Suicune's been described as this Pokemon so serene as the wind and purifying water as it touches it. The reincarnation of the North Winds itself, a half wind, half water Pokemon that's so elegant it even walks on the water just for extra bonus points. Now, Walking Wake did carry this on. It can walk on water too. But while it can be looked at as a savage period in Suicune's ancient life before it became what it is now, or got resurrected by Ho-Oh into a more calm version, it can almost be spun as Sada reimagining what Suicune should have been before as entirely wrong. I mean, a T-Rex monster that can already walk on water turning into this? If Walking Wake really is from Sada's dreams, it sounds like her fantasy went too far and she got it wrong. And so now to think about, if all of this is a lie, what did Heath see when he went down to Area 0? Or what did he do down there? Chances are, if Sada and Turo were able to actualize fake Pokemon, surely Heath, who has a bigger fantasy and imagination than them, would have pulled something off too. It's hard to tell. Maybe Heath did manage to create just one Paradox Pokemon based off his biggest fantasy of them all. Either when he went down there with this crew, or hypothetically after his book was published and he was called a liar, if he went down there alone at the end. And that Paradox Pokemon is his own Cyclizar turned into Koraidon or Miraidon, which would later be the kind one Sada and Turo pulled out and we ride on in the games. It would be like a clash between Heath's imagination and Sada and Turo's more savage imagination. Heath was building this fantasy, so his Cyclizar turned into a kind one. And then the ones Sada and Turo pulled out were more brutal because they were more crazy scientists. So the original Koraidon Miraidon is based off Heath's broad imagination, and the second one is just living up to the fantasy of what Heath wrote, the kings of the past and future. So when you see the two Koraidons and Miraidons clashing with each other, it's kind of like the imaginations of Heath back then, who was more innocent with what he was doing, clashing with Sada and Turo, which we have proof in game they're crazy and we're on the path to destroying the world. The second one! It's your brother! But this one's fierce, right? This one fights? Ah, what the frick? Which would also give a different meaning to when we go back to the books and you see Heath standing beside his Cyclizar. But back to Heath, if we were to call everything he did and wrote about a lie, he did find some truth down there too. One, he found all those ancient tablets, which we would assume are the ancient people who learned about dream tech through Terapagos' energy and were trying to build stuff back then, and then they just left these slabs for future people to figure out. So he wrote about those and those turned out to be real. And he also wrote about Terapagos and meeting it, and that definitely turned out to be real. Sada and Turo also discovered Terapagos in recent times, and even in a weird way used its energy to create dreamlike inventions like a time machine, which is totally from someone's fantasy, and then AIs, which not only is the stuff of fantasies but specifically Sada and Turo's fantasies. They never trusted any of their own members back in the Area 0 labs. They wanted pretty much their own clone to be their sidekick. So of course they used Terapagos' dream energy in a scientific way to create exactly that, a perfect AI with its human parts stripped away so that it wouldn't be compassionate and lose its productivity worrying about Arven and all. And so why the AIs can't leave Area 0 is because they're not finished products. They're constantly fueled by specifically dream energy, so they have to stay in Area 0's core. And so all the stuff about dream tech and Heath's survey down there mostly being a lie, his crew knew that. So the time machine is a fake machine that just wields dense amounts of Terapagos' power to make Pokemon out of thin air, which is OP. So you could say maybe it uses like a Jigglypuff as a base, and then it converts it into a Dream Awakened version of Jigglypuff, Screamtail. But Going back to like the dream catcher idea I was telling you guys about, where when people discovered Terapagos looks like a dream catcher, I was saying maybe it's at the center of Paldea, getting a tiny, like inconsequential bit of dream energy from everyone in the entire region, that it's amassed this huge amount. And so while it is making Pokemon out of thin air, if Saranturo in a sense asked it to or forced it to using the time machine, it is finite to an extent because it's taking it from that supply of dream energy. So it's not as OP. So essentially Terapagos is a giant spirit bomb Pokemon, and Saranturo just knew how to mine that and get what they wanted out of it. Essentially Terapagos is like Shenron. It can actually grant people's dreams using the dreams of everyone else in the region, which I guess is poetic. And then there's, of course, like dream catchers, there's positive dreams and negative dreams. If the big spirit bomb that Saranturo are getting all their inventions from are from the positive dreams, then that means the negative dreams lurk somewhere too. And maybe the vision Heath got when he went down to Area Zero of this terrifying Terapagos is Terapagos if you pissed it off and it brought out the negative dream energy and was in this world-ending state. Because not that Terapagos is a bad Pokemon, but it's like a double-edged sword. If you have this amassed energy collected from people's dreams, then the negative version that Terapagos turns into would be a reflection of how evil people can be too, and selfish. So this is what Paradox Pokemon are. Fake Pokemon made from the dream energy that Terapagos has amassed. And so you can get to smaller examples like Ogerpon. Ogerpon's masks are like actualizations of its own dreams. That's why only Ogerpon can wield those masks and turn into those different typings. And then you can get to examples like Dokutaro, which we don't know if it's optional or not, but maybe Dokutaro was a Pokemon that knows this about Terapagos and hunts down its dream energy to grant its own smaller evil dreams, which is how it grants the Loyal 3 its toxic chains. And so at this point, you know, I've thought about this a lot. When you hear a lot of points in succession like this, it's freaking convincing. Like, I've just convinced myself just speaking out my mind. But there's one last thing I want to leave y'all off on. That's for you guys to answer, which is the final question. Where did Saranturo go? So the time machine is fake. Or maybe the time machine is real. How far does the dream stuff go? But they use it at the end of the game. And they go somewhere. Did they get crushed by the machine? Of course not. This is a Pokemon game. Did they get sent somewhere else? Did they get sent to a void? Or did they actually get sent to the past and future? Even though that's not even a time machine. How far does Terapagos' dream powers go? All I know is somehow in this Indigo disc, as Ku said here, even if they don't tell us the answer, they'll hint it enough so that we know the answer. Ah yes, and then of course there's Gita, which I made a video talking about. I'll link it right after this is done. But Gita looks a lot like Glimmora, too much like Glimmora with the blue and yellow. So we talked about this. It sounds crazy right now to say, but this theory that she's a Glimmora. I mean, after you heard everything I just told you about Terapagos being a dream Pokemon, it doesn't sound far-fetched if there was a Glimmora that somehow got its own dreams actualized and turned into a humanoid form. Whether that form is temporary or not. And that's Gita. So anyhow, I do have my own answer to where Saranturo went, but I'll save that for its own video because that leads down its own rabbit hole. But make sure you shank that like button and do the discussion in the comments. Time travel with no dream involved or a whole dream mess up. That is what Scarlet and Violet is about. But anyhow, I'll see you on the next video. Take care.